25 most dangerous car features from the past that vanished forever. Do you remember a time when style was everything and safety was just an afterthought? From sharp hood ornaments that turned into deadly weapons to the crazy idea of a neck seatbelt. Why did these dangerous and bizarre relics even exist? Join us as we uncover 25 secrets buried in automotive history. The things modern drivers should be truly thankful for. Neck seatbelts. First up, let's look at another particularly bizarre idea from the 1960s, the neck seatbelt. Yes, you heard that right. Automakers actually considered using seatbelts that went around the neck instead of the chest and lap. The original goal sounded logical: prevent whiplash and accidents by keeping your head from snapping back and holding it steady. It was a wild concept, envisioning a basic seatbelt working like a scarf to hold your head in place, focusing solely on the vulnerable link between the head and body. However, neck seatbelts were never widely adopted or released to the consumer market. They stayed in secret experimental prototypes by major companies like Ford and General Motors. Most of the public didn't even know about this potential safety revolution, making them like safety agents hidden in secrecy. The core issue? Neck seatbelts came with their own distinct and deadly risks. While it might have helped whiplash in certain situations, it could also cause severe neck damage and abrupt stops. Imagine your body lurching forward while your head is held tight. That's a formula for strain, stress, or worse. Plus, these prototypes weren't thoroughly crash-tested in real accidents, so nobody knew if they truly saved lives or caused more harm. By the 1970s, neck seatbelts disappeared from development projects. They were likely deemed too dangerous to become standard. Fortunately, today we stick to the tried and trusted shoulder and lap belts, leaving the neck free to move naturally while traveling. Water balloon bumpers. Next, in the mid-1900s, as car safety became a big issue, manufacturers tried every trick to protect people in collisions. One of the most unique concepts was water balloon bumpers. Essentially, they took regular bumpers and filled them with water, with the idea that the water would act as a cushion, absorbing the impact force. This idea emerged in the 1950s. Big names like Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors even tested it. People were curious but also skeptical about cars that looked like they had oversized water balloons attached to the front and rear. However, water balloon bumpers had serious flaws. The bumper material wasn't durable enough, and in real accidents they often burst, spilling water everywhere. Although water could absorb some energy, it couldn't compare to the effectiveness of modern safety features like crumple zones. As researchers delved deeper into collision safety, it became clear that water balloon bumpers were more of a public stunt than a genuine safety improvement. By the 1970s, they vanished from new car designs. Non-collapsible steering columns. Before the late 1960s, a hidden danger lurked in every car: the non-collapsible steering column. Basically, this was a solid metal rod connecting the steering wheel to the wheels on the road. Most people didn't pay much attention until horrific accidents revealed just how dangerous they were. At the time, major companies like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler all used these rigid columns in their cars. What was the core problem? In a crash, the steering column didn't budge. These early cars lacked crumple zones, meaning the horrific impact force wasn't absorbed by the car's frame. Instead, it pushed the steering column straight into the driver. These columns were famously likened to wading spears, easily causing severe injuries or even death. Unlike modern steering columns that can fold and deform in a controlled way, these old designs had no way to absorb impact energy, turning a simple accident into a disaster causing spinal or internal trauma. This was a serious problem until General Motors GM stepped in. In 1967, GM pioneered the introduction of the first collapsible steering column. This smart design would automatically deform and fold upon impact, significantly reducing the risk of the driver being injured by the column. Other automakers quickly followed suit, and the era of rigid steering columns officially ended. Wrist twist swivel system. After the water bumper fiasco, another bold idea emerged in the 1960s: the wrist twist swivel system. Imagine, instead of a traditional steering wheel, you had two rotating dials, almost like bicycle handlebars. Ford's Mercury brand actually put this system into their Park Lane convertible lineup. The original idea was that steering with these twisting dials would be more comfortable and intuitive. The steering column could tilt up for easy entry and lower onto your lap once seated. It even gave you a clearer view of the dashboard, unobstructed by the steering wheel rim. However, the wrist twist system ran into major problems. Drivers found it confusing and it required real mental effort to keep hands loose and get used to the finger loops. It lacked the natural feel of a steering wheel, which helps you sense how much you are turning and maintain control. This made driving uncomfortable and potentially dangerous. Safety-wise, without a padded steering wheel rim, your head and knees were more vulnerable in a collision. Despite convenient features like the telescopic steering column, this system was eventually phased out by the 1970s. Engineers realized that the traditional steering wheel, the oldest invention in automotive history, remained the best choice for safety and practicality. Unsafe fuel tanks. The 1970s marked a dark chapter in car safety history, and the name tied to it is the Ford Pinto. On paper, the Pinto was designed to be a compact, fuel-efficient car affordable to many Americans at the time. But lurking beneath was a deadly flaw. The fuel tank was placed right behind the rear axle, an extremely dangerous position if the car was rear-ended. Upon release, drivers quickly loved the Pinto for its convenience and low price, unaware they were sitting on a time bomb. Tragedy began when rear-end collisions occurred, puncturing the fuel tank, leaking gasoline, and in the blink of an eye, the car turned into an inferno. Then the truth slowly emerged, and it was more shocking than the accidents. Ford, instead of fixing the design flaw to save lives, chose a colder path, prioritizing profit over safety. A famous internal document called the Pinto Memo showed the company calculated that compensating lawsuits would be much cheaper than the cost of changing the design. The consequences were devastating. At least 27 people died in Pinto-related fires, and many others suffered lifelong injuries from severe burns. Ford's reputation was heavily damaged, and the Pinto quickly became a symbol of corporate indifference and disregard for human life. Only when stricter safety regulations and Crumple zone technology emerged did the Pinto nightmare close in the late 1970s. Spinner knobs, suicide knobs. This accessory was loved by many old-school drivers, but it was also called the suicide knob, spinner knob. Drivers used it to spin the steering wheel quickly and easily with one hand, especially helpful when backing up or making U-turns. It offered an undeniable cool look and turning efficiency. However, this type of control knob was not recommended by any car manufacturer. It was also not included in official driver education curricula. The quality of such knobs on the accessory market was unpredictable and unregulated. Now imagine this situation. You are turning the wheel and the knob suddenly breaks or pops off. You would immediately lose control of the car. Additionally, in a front-end collision, the steering wheel is already a danger, and adding a rigid metal or plastic spinner knob further increased the likelihood of injury to the driver. The knob could also get caught in the driver's sleeve or hair, especially for women, during use, causing sudden distraction. Although they still exist as an accessory, the significant safety risks have led to them being banned or strongly discouraged, promoting the need for drivers to always use two hands to ensure optimal steering control. Think back to the first car you owned. Did it have a metal dashboard or just a lap-only seatbelt? Let us know what that car was. Swing-away steering wheels. In the mid-1900s, car designers came up with a pretty unique idea to make entering and exiting the car easier. The swing-away steering wheel. Imagine walking up to the car, and the steering wheel automatically swings out of the way, giving you more space to slide into the driver's seat. Ford introduced this unique feature in 1961, offering it as an option on models like the Thunderbird. It was a convenient solution to the age-old problem of squeezing into tight spaces. Not just Ford, but other automakers also experimented with similar ideas around that time. However, the swing-away steering wheel turned out to be impractical and unsafe. The mechanism that allowed them to move was sometimes unreliable. The steering wheel might not return to the exact position, confusing the driver or even getting stuck. And the worst potential risk? The steering wheel unexpectedly deciding to swing away while you were driving. That could be a serious disaster. As the 1970s arrived, their appeal faded. Safety concerns eventually outweighed the convenience factor, and manufacturers began focusing on more reliable and safer features. Floor-mounted dimmer switches, rewind time, and many old cars had the high and low beam switch, dimmer switch, located on the floor right near the driver's foot. While this seems like a small detail, it actually posed a significant safety risk. Imagine driving on a dark road and suddenly you face an oncoming car with its high beams on. You need to switch to low beams quickly to avoid blinding the oncoming driver, which could cause an accident. But with the switch on the floor, you have to look down, take your eyes off the road, and your hand off the wheel to find it. Those precious seconds could be the difference between a near miss and a serious accident. Fumbling for the switch on the floor in an emergency situation could be extremely dangerous. Fortunately, modern cars have moved the high-low beam switch to a much safer and more accessible location, the steering column. This allows the driver to easily switch without taking their hands off the wheel or eyes off the road. It's a simple yet effective design change that has certainly prevented countless accidents over the years. Lap-only seatbelts. When automakers started phasing out dangerous metal dashboards, another crucial safety feature emerged, the lap-only seatbelt. In the 1960s, these were the first real seatbelts introduced. They were essentially a simple strap running across the lap, designed to keep you from being thrown forward or flung through the windshield. These first seatbelts had a two-point anchor design. Public reaction at the time was mixed. Some saw them as potential saviors, while others found them bothersome and uncomfortable. But despite being a step forward, lap-only seatbelts had serious limitations. They offered no protection for the upper body and head. In a collision, you could still violently strike the dashboard, steering wheel, or windshield. This design failed to keep the torso secure. Experts recognized these flaws. By the 1970s, the shoulder strap was introduced. This diagonal strap worked with the lap belt to provide more comprehensive protection. This three-point seatbelt, developed by Volvo engineer Niels Bohlin in 1959, quickly became the new standard and remains the #1 protective tool in modern cars. Absence of crumple zones. Around the 1960s, cars were characterized by extremely strong and rigid chassis like steel fortresses. Drivers at the time often boasted that their cars were built like tanks. However, these cars lacked a critical safety feature: crumple zones. Initially, the public didn't worry much about the lack of these zones, as safety wasn't the top concern. Major manufacturers like Ford and Chevrolet produced cars with stiff frames that wouldn't bend. The dangerous problem was this: that rigid frame transmitted the entire impact force directly to the occupants. When a car couldn't deform to absorb crash energy, passengers bore the full impact force. This often led to severe injuries such as broken bones or concussions. Recognizing the urgent need for safety, engineers spearheaded a design philosophy shift in the 1970s. They began integrating deformable areas at the front, rear, and sides of the car. These areas were designed to sacrifice structural integrity to save lives. The adoption of crumple zones was a huge step forward, significantly reducing the severity of injuries and accidents. Lack of headrests. In the early days of motoring, headrests were a rare feature. Car seats lacked padded support for the head. It wasn't until the late 1960s that headrests became common, primarily introduced to prevent whiplash in rear-end collisions. Initially, drivers didn't prioritize headrests. They were more concerned with engine power and chrome details. However, the lack of headrests posed serious dangers. In a rear-end collision, the passenger's body is pushed forward, but the head snaps backward, causing whiplash and muscle or ligament strain. Without support, the head could violently whip back, significantly increasing the risk of injury. The Swedish automaker Volvo pioneered this, making headrests standard equipment in 1968. This action prompted other manufacturers to follow suit. As safety standards evolved throughout the 1970s, the headrest transitioned from a mere amenity to an essential life-saving component. Today, they are aligned to match the natural curve of the spine, effectively supporting the passenger's head and minimizing the risk of neck injury. The disappearance of seats without headrests is a clear win for passenger safety. Thank you for watching. To continue with more content, comment yes to let us know you're still following. Bench seats. Bench seats, those wide, continuous seats that could accommodate 3 or more passengers, were a common sight in American cars until the 1990s. While they offered plenty of space for passengers, they were not ideal in terms of safety. One of the biggest problems was the lack of individual seatbelt systems. The middle passenger often only had a lap-only seatbelt, or sometimes none at all. This meant that in a collision, the middle passenger was at a much higher risk of injury than those seated at the edges. Another issue was side support. Bench seats didn't provide the snug support like bucket seats. In turns or during collisions, passengers could slide across the seat, increasing the risk of injury. Finally, bench seats made it difficult to effectively deploy passenger airbags. The wide, flat surface didn't allow for precise airbag placement to protect passengers in a collision. The transition to bucket seats with individual seat belts and integrated airbag systems was a huge leap for car safety. Metal dashboards. In the early days of automobiles, metal dashboards were nothing more than simple metal panels, containing only the necessary gauges and switches. No soft padding, no complex design, just cold, hard steel. These metal dashboards were as rugged and unforgiving as the cars themselves. Initially, drivers weren't too bothered, but over time it became clear that metal dashboards were a serious safety hazard. In a collision, they could cause devastating injuries. The passenger's head, knees, and chest would impact the hard metal with brutal force. Unlike modern dashboards designed to absorb impact, these old panels offered no protection whatsoever. No foam padding, no airbags, just raw steel. In the 1960s, safety concerns began to escalate. Engineers realized that metal dashboards were a threat. Crash tests revealed the horrific consequences of hitting your head on a solid metal surface. As a result, automakers started adding padding, vinyl coatings, and other safety features. The era of the bare metal dashboard ended as the industry prioritized safety over simple aesthetics. Roof-mounted video screens. In cars, roof-mounted video screens might keep rear seat passengers entertained, especially on long trips. However, they create a major safety issue for the driver. These screens, when installed in the forward or rear position, completely block the driver's rear view. Obstructed vision through the rearview mirror is a potential hazard, as the driver cannot monitor approaching vehicles from the rear or obstacles when backing up. Moreover, the presence of a video screen in a visible location can also distract the driver. Even a quick glance is enough to cause an accident. The best and safest way is to place this entertainment screen in the headrest of the front seats. This position allows rear passengers to watch without compromising the driver's rear visibility or distracting the person behind the wheel. Hood ornaments. Back in the early 1900s, automakers loved decorating their cars with hood ornaments. These were small sculptures placed at the front of the car, serving as a striking symbol of the brand. Rolls-Royce, a symbol of luxury, introduced its iconic Spirit of Ecstasy mascot in the 1910s. Other companies like Packard, Cadillac, and Dodge also followed suit, using these ornaments as badges of honor and style statements. Dodge, for instance, chose the charging ram as its ornament. However, the elegance of these ornaments was overshadowed by their serious danger. Those elegant, sharp shapes, winged figures, animals, or goddesses, could become deadly weapons in an accident. They posed a risk of piercing pedestrians or causing severe injury to the driver. As pedestrian safety became more crucial, regulations were introduced in the 1970s. These regulations required automakers to design foldable hoods or use blunter, retractable ornaments to mitigate the risk of injury. As a result, hood ornaments gradually disappeared from most vehicles. If you could bring back one classic non-dangerous convenience feature, what would it be and why? Pop-out windshields. In the mid-20th century, another bizarre innovation emerged: pop-out windshields. Some cars, notably the 1948 Tucker, were equipped with windshields designed to pop out in one piece during a collision. The idea was that if you had a serious accident, you could push the windshield out and safely escape the wreckage. They used a special rubber gasket that allowed the entire windshield to be removed. Initially, drivers were quite excited about this feature. But like many new inventions, pop-out windshields had some serious drawbacks. In a truly bad crash, the force of impact could propel both the windshield and the passenger out of the car. Instead of shattering, you ran the risk of becoming a human projectile, flying through the very glass meant to protect you. As safety concerns grew, the popularity of pop-out windshields declined. By the 1950s, curved, panoramic windshields became popular, offering better visibility without the risk of ejection. The Motor Vehicle Safety Act intervened, introducing new regulations and ending this era. Rear-hinged doors, suicide doors. Rear-hinged doors, also known as suicide doors due to their inherent dangers, were a common feature on cars, especially luxury models from the 1930s to the 1960s. They were designed to provide a wider opening, making entry and exit easier. However, rear-hinged doors came with a serious safety risk. If the door accidentally opened while the car was moving, the wind force could catch the door and yank it wide open. This made it extremely difficult for passengers to close or could even pull them out of the car, leading to severe injury or death. The nickname suicide doors unfortunately became all too fitting in some cases. Modern safety regulations have largely eliminated rear-hinged doors for this reason. Automakers now prioritize designs that minimize the risk of unexpected door opening while the car is running. Although some modern designs have reintroduced rear-hinged doors, they are supplemented with safety features like electronic locking mechanisms to mitigate the risk. Vent windows. Triangular vent windows, often located near the front of the car door, were a common feature on vehicles until the 1980s. They were especially popular before air conditioning became widespread, providing a way to bring fresh air into the cabin without having to roll down the entire window. However, despite their usefulness for ventilation, vent windows had significant safety drawbacks. A major issue was that they weakened the overall structure of the car. The presence of these small windows created weak points in the doorframe, compromising the integrity of the cabin in rollovers or side collisions. In a serious accident, the vent window could easily break, potentially increasing the risk of injury to passengers. Another concern was that they were an easy target for thieves. Their small size and relatively simple locking mechanism made them easy to pry open. As car design and technology advanced, modern climate control systems and the need for better aerodynamics made vent windows obsolete. No anti-lock brakes ABS. Anti-lock brakes ABS are a crucial safety invention, originating in the 1950s, initially used in aviation and railways. The purpose of ABS is to prevent the wheels from locking up during braking, helping the driver maintain steering control. Before ABS became standard, the lack of this system caused significant hazards. Sudden hard braking, especially on slippery surfaces, like icy roads, easily led to wheel lockup and complete loss of vehicle control. Drivers couldn't steer or control the car's trajectory when the wheels were skidding. Although patented by Mercedes-Benz in 1953, ABS was initially a luxury feature, only available on high-end models due to high cost. However, technology evolved, integrating sophisticated sensors and processors to increase braking precision. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, eventually mandated ABS on all passenger vehicles, along with electronic stability control. This change has significantly reduced accidents caused by loss of braking control. Cigarette lighters and ashtrays. Believe it or not, until the late 1990s and early 2000s, cigarette lighters and ashtrays were standard equipment in most cars. Looking back, it's clear these seemingly harmless accessories posed several serious safety risks. First and foremost, they were a fire hazard. A lit cigarette or a faulty lighter could easily ignite flammable materials inside the car, especially in older models with less flame-resistant interiors. This could lead to devastating consequences for both driver and passengers. Second, smoking while driving is a major distraction. The action of lighting up, puffing, and flicking ash takes the driver's eyes off the road, increasing the risk of accidents. Furthermore, smoke inside the car could significantly reduce the driver's visibility. Today, societal attitudes towards smoking have changed dramatically. This shift, combined with growing safety concerns, led to the gradual decline of lighters and ashtrays in cars. The lighter socket has been converted into a 12-volt power outlet for electronic devices. Which dangerous feature on this list surprised you the most? Share it in the comments below. 8-track and cassette players. Back in the day, 8-track and cassette players were cutting-edge technology, changing how we listened to music in the car. However, looking back, these beloved sound systems had major drawbacks related to safety. A big problem was distraction. Changing a cassette or 8-track tape while driving required much more driver attention and fumbling than modern audio systems. The driver had to take their eyes off the road to find the tape, insert it, and ensure it played correctly. This increased the risk of accidents, especially in heavy traffic. Another issue was the potential for mechanical failure. Tapes could get stuck or even break, causing sudden distraction for the driver. Imagine trying to untangle a cassette tape reel while navigating a busy intersection. That's definitely not a safe scenario. The transition to CD players and then digital audio systems significantly improved safety. Modern cars often have voice-controlled infotainment systems, allowing drivers to manage music without taking their hands off the wheel or eyes off the road. Tinted headlights/taillights. Tinting the headlight or taillight assembly can make the car look sportier and cooler. This is an aesthetic trend that some car owners have followed. However, this is very dangerous. Darkening the headlights completely reduces the intensity of the headlight beam. This results in insufficient forward lighting, especially at night or in bad weather conditions. Additionally, when the lights are off at night, tinting the taillights also makes it difficult for other vehicles to see the car's existence on the road. Other vehicles might not notice the car in time, especially when parked on the roadside or in low light conditions. Furthermore, some people also modify lights with multiple colors. This type of customized light, while visually appealing, also reduces light intensity and provides insufficient illumination. Such flashing lights are extremely distracting to others on the road, leading to the risk of causing accidents. Cheap/improper floor mats. Floor mats are one of the first accessories added when buying a new car. However, many people choose cheap floor mats, often made of hard plastic. These mats are also not properly cut to fit the car floor. This has been proven to be extremely dangerous. Cheap or improperly installed floor mats can accidentally get caught under the brake pedal or accelerator, causing catastrophic accidents on the road. There have been quite a few major incidents in the past related to this floor mat issue. In an emergency situation, the mat getting stuck under the pedal can strip the driver's ability to control the car. Car owners need to be extremely careful when selecting and installing floor mats. To ensure safety, manufacturers recommend only using genuine vehicle-specific floor mats and ensuring they are securely fastened to prevent sliding. This eliminates the risk of the mat obstructing the operation of the brake or gas pedal. Loose steering wheel covers. Steering wheel covers certainly offer a fresh feel and allow owners to customize color and style. Some types, like beaded covers, even claim to massage the hands. However, many cheap steering wheel covers are poorly designed and do not grip the wheel firmly. The greatest risk of this type of cover is that it is loose. This allows the steering wheel to slip inside the cover, causing the driver to lose control while steering, especially in situations requiring quick reaction. Losing direct control of the steering wheel can lead to catastrophic consequences. Drivers need to feel a secure connection with the steering system to ensure safety. Poor quality covers, despite their appearance, can also obstruct airbag deployment in the event of a collision. The safety advice is to completely avoid cheap, poorly designed steering wheel covers that do not properly grip the steering wheel. Finally, one danger that isn't an old car feature but an accessory installation error that still poses a fire risk today: improper wiring. Many car accessories require rewiring or adjustment of the car's electrical system when installed. For example, installing a high-end sound system or changing conventional headlights to the xenon headlights requires many changes to the complex wiring system. However, if the wiring is not done correctly, it can lead to overheating. This can eventually cause an electrical short and lead to the car catching fire. This is an extremely serious risk. To ensure maximum safety, users should buy genuine accessories. More importantly, installation must be performed by trained specialists who know how to handle complex car wiring systems. Taking matters into your own hands or entrusting it to non-experts can turn your car into a potential time bomb. We have gone through 25 dangerous features showing the non-stop evolution of automotive safety technology. Data shows that the fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled has dropped by 78% compared to the 1960s. thanks to improvements like 3-point seatbelts, airbags, and assist cameras. Although these classic designs evoke nostalgia, their disappearance has significantly reduced the death toll. 25 ugliest cars from the 1970s that should stay forgotten. Not every car from the 1970s was a sleek masterpiece. Some were clumsy, even bizarre, but somehow they became unforgettable. Perhaps it was due to their unusual shapes, strange ideas, or simply the charm of standing out in a sea of identical cars. Today, we're going on a nostalgic trip through the ugliest cars of this decade that no one wants to buy back. 1974. Sebring Vanguard City Car. Let's start with a tiny electric car, a product that was perhaps the culmination of genius, or perhaps just a crazy idea from a company called Sebring Vanguard. This city car, with its shape resembling a wheel chock, was actually identical to an exaggerated golf cart. It was a simple vehicle with an engine of only 2.5 horsepower, later upgraded to 6 horsepower. Its top speed was only about 25 miles per hour with a range of about 40 miles per charge. To reach 25 miles per hour, this car took 6.2 seconds. Despite its humble appearance and limited performance by today's standards, the city car was a pioneering achievement in the electric vehicle market. With its futuristic design, tiny wheels, and plastic body, it looked like something out of a science fiction movie. It was powered by lead-acid batteries and a series DC motor, charging from a standard wall outlet. Starting at around $3,000, the city car was an affordable option for those seeking an alternative to gas-guzzling cars. Over 4,400 units were sold before Sebring Vanguard went bankrupt, after which the design was acquired by a company called Commuter Vehicles and rebranded as Commuta-Car, even adding rather ridiculous-looking bumper extensions. 1975 AMC Pacer. After the Gremlin, AMC continued to experiment with bold and sometimes controversial design ideas. In 1975, they introduced the Pacer, advertised as AMC's first small but wide car. The goal was to offer the spaciousness of a larger car in a compact package. The Pacer had a bulging body, a wide stance, and a huge glass enclosure, professionally referred to as a greenhouse. This enormous glass area, designed to provide better driver visibility, ironically made them feel like a goldfish being boiled in its own bowl. At the rear, its taillights looked as if they were designed with a cake icing spatula. Stepping inside, you were greeted by a surprisingly spacious cabin. The Pacer's wide body and high roof offered ample head and legroom, even for taller passengers. Another unique point was its door configuration. The passenger side door was longer for easier access to the rear seats. AMC promoted the Pacer as a futuristic car with an aerodynamic shape and large glass area, designed to improve fuel efficiency. The 1978 version was even uglier, as AMC fitted a bulging hood and a vertical grille to make space for a new optional V8 engine, an attempt to give the Pacer the power it needed to move all that heavy glass. With the already thirsty cast-iron 6-cylinder engines, fuel economy was not a concern. 1977. Leata Caballero. Sometimes ugliness doesn't just come from the factory, but from an individual's ambitious renovation efforts. That's the story of the 1977 Le Cabra Caballero. The Chevrolet Chevette was already a pathetic car. Slow, noisy, and utterly terrible, but at least it wasn't too disastrous aesthetically. However, Mr. Donald E. Steinbach of Port Falls decided to change that. Mr. Steinbach slathered 350 pounds of Bondo and fiberglass onto that poor Chevy Chevette in an effort to transform it into a Frankencar in the style of a first-generation Monte Carlo. He then resold it for nearly double the price of the original Chevette. What's incredible is that he produced almost 100 such cars, including some El Camino-inspired pickup versions, which, if you can believe it, looked even more ridiculous. It seems Mr. Steinbach named this car after his wife. Good reason for a divorce if you ask us, though why he paired it with a misspelling of the Spanish word for gentleman remains a mystery. Ultimately, Mr. Steinbach lost everything on this project, so perhaps there's a little justice in the universe. Among these first cars, did any of them cross paths with your childhood? Please share your memories in the comments. 1973 Oldsmobile Omega. In the 70s, American automakers often employed a badge engineering strategy to diversify their product lines without incurring too much cost. The 1973 Oldsmobile Omega is a prime example of this strategy. Essentially, the Omega was a rebadged Chevrolet Nova. It shared the same platform, the same engines, and most of its body panels with the Nova. Oldsmobile tried to give the Omega a bit of its brand's distinct style by equipping it with a twin waterfall grille, round headlights, and wood grain trim on the dashboard. The goal was to create a more upscale option than the Nova, emphasizing luxury features and Oldsmobile lineage. While the Omega may not have been particularly striking in design, it was a reliable and solid car. It offered a comfortable ride, decent performance with available V8 engines, and a spacious interior for its size. With a starting price of around $3,000, it was an affordable option. However, despite Oldsmobile's efforts, the Omega could not entirely escape the Nova's shadow and was often seen as a more expensive version of an existing car. 1974, Bricklin SV1. This was a creation from Canada, an eye-catching sports car with impressive gull-wing doors, a feature usually only seen on expensive supercars. Malcolm Bricklin, the man who introduced the Subaru 360 and Yugo to American consumers, attempted to create his own car. He called it the Plastic Fantastic Safety Vehicle 1. Unfortunately, this car was terrible in many aspects, including its aesthetics. From the first glance, the SV1 had a rather peculiar look with huge bumpers front and rear, narrow gun-slit windows, and 70s turbine-style wheels that looked out of place. Its build quality was extremely poor. Body panels were often warped even before being attached to the chassis. Its hidden headlights preferred to stay hidden, often refusing to light up. The car also leaked as if it were made of cheesecloth, and its 90-pound gull-wing doors tended to warp or break under the force of the hydraulic actuators, if they decided to open at all. The frequently failing electrical system often trapped owners inside. The body was made from a unique color-impregnated acrylic plastic, bonded to fiberglass, a choice that later proved problematic. V8 engines sourced from AMC or Ford provided sufficient power but weren't particularly exciting. Despite its impressive appearance and innovative features, the SV1 could not overcome production issues and high costs. 1970 AMC Gremlin. At first glance, one often gets the feeling as if it were only 2/3 of a complete car. It had an abruptly truncated rear end, a short wheelbase, and overall proportions that made it feel like someone had taken a saw and chopped off a part of a larger car. Despite its rather distinctive appearance, the Gremlin was described as a corporate genius. It was developed at a low cost, arrived at the right time, and achieved sales success, at least by AMC's modest standards. It was introduced on April 1st, 1970, and AMC promoted it as the first American-made import, emphasizing its small size, European-inspired design, and fuel efficiency. With a starting price of around $2,000, it was one of the most affordable cars on the market. Perhaps its very distinctiveness made it endearing. Its compactness and fuel-efficient engine pleased budget-conscious buyers during the fuel crisis. Even in 1973, AMC released a unique Levi's edition with denim upholstery, brass rivets, and Levi's tags, turning this car into a 70s icon and quickly becoming a cult favorite. Even so, AMC once considered a shortened Hornet version that chief designer Dick Teague thought was even uglier. But since he approved the Gremlin himself, his opinion was perhaps not entirely trustworthy. 1970 Saab Sonett 3. Saab, the Swedish automaker known for unique designs, launched the Sonett 3 in 1970. This car was designed with the goal of pleasing American buyers. However, it seems someone told the Swedes that Americans liked cars with large front overhangs, a joke Saab took too seriously. So, the Sonett appeared with an absurdly long front end, and the situation worsened when a large 5-mile-per-hour bumper was attached to the front. As if the proportions weren't bad enough, this extended front end contrasted sharply with the awkwardly truncated rear. It's no surprise that Americans didn't take Saab seriously until the 900 model arrived. The Sonett 3, despite its good intentions, became an example of how a design can go astray when trying to please a new market without truly understanding their preferences. This unbalanced appearance made it one of the decade's most unsightly cars. Volkswagen Thing, Type 181. Let's move on to another car, one with a rugged and utilitarian appearance, yet with its own distinct charm, the Volkswagen Thing. This car, also known as the Type 181, was a boxy utilitarian vehicle originally designed for military purposes. It was a car that fully embraced its military origins, offering a sense of adventure and practicality. The Thing's interior was simple, with vinyl seats that could be hosed down and rubber floor mats to keep out sand and dirt. Its dashboard looked as if it were taken straight from a Jeep. The Thing's doorless design and removable convertible top made it perfect for beachgoers, surfers, and anyone wanting to feel the wind in their hair. It was also surprisingly durable, with optional four-wheel drive and a raised suspension that could handle rough terrain well. With a starting price of around $2,700, it was a budget-friendly option for those seeking a versatile vehicle. It could carry cargo, transport a family, or even serve as a temporary camper. Thank you for watching. To continue seeing more content, please comment yes to let us know you're still following. 1972 Subaru GL Coupe. Subaru, like other Japanese automakers, gradually entered the American market with compact, efficient, and practical cars, which were sensible if not stylish. However, in 1972, their designers tried to create a more stylish car, and this was the result of that effort: the Subaru GL Coupe. According to a witty story, perhaps the Subaru GL was too long to fit into shipping containers, and the simple solution was to cut off 8 inches from the rear, then attach the bumper and taillights and ship it. This design treatment created a rather unbalanced and aesthetically unpleasing look, making the car appear like a patch job rather than a complete design. This GL Coupe, perhaps not a styling victory, was part of Subaru's journey to find its footing in the American market. It showed the experiments, sometimes quite awkward, that manufacturers undertook in the 70s to meet diverse consumer tastes. 1973 Leyland P76. Don't think British Leyland only made Britons miserable. The P76 is proof that the world's most infamous car corporation tried to spread that misery to the furthest reaches of the Commonwealth. Manufactured by Leyland Australia, the P76 was a large car. Perhaps the design requirement was to eradicate any lingering desire to reform the empire. The car's wedge shape allowed the trunk to hold a 44-gallon drum, preferably one full of flammable liquid. Besides being ugly, the P76 was built with all the care and quality Leyland was known for, which is to say, none at all. The build quality was rated as non-existent. After 2 years and only 18,000 units sold, the P76 became history. It was a symbol of failure in design and production quality, a testament that even a market with potential could not accept such a subpar product. 1973 Reliant Robin. Three-wheeled cars don't necessarily have to be ugly, although most of them are. The problem with the 1973 Reliant Robin was not just that it was ugly, but that it exuded an air of utter desperation. Even its predecessor, the ironically named Reliant Regal, retained a faint, barely perceptible visual dignity. But the Robin looked exactly like the car you would buy when you couldn't afford a proper car. With its austere appearance, large bulging eyes, and seemingly content to shamelessly wallow in its substandard status, the Robin seemed to beg for our slightest affection, which we had every reason to refuse. Did you know it had a long production history and was an icon of the British automotive industry? This car was designed to be affordable and fuel efficient, but its narrow wheel track and light body made it notorious for being prone to tipping over, especially when cornering. The original 750 cubic centimeter engine was later upgraded to 850 cubic centimeters, allowing the Robin to reach speeds of 70 to 85 miles per hour depending on the model. Its lightweight fiberglass body and surprisingly spacious interior, along with a simple design, made it easy to maintain. 1970 AMC Rebel. AMC, with its history of producing unique cars, brought a mid-size car called the Rebel to the market in 1970. This was an attempt to please everyone, but ultimately it was a mix of design ideas. The Rebel had a long, flat body and an oversized grille, creating an unbalanced appearance. Some even compared it to a stretched wagon. However, looks can be deceiving. The Rebel's true strength lay in its practicality and spacious interior. It could comfortably seat a family of 5, and its suspension provided a smooth and comfortable ride. AMC offered up to 8 engine options, including inline-6 and V8 engines. With a starting price of around $3,500, the Rebel was a budget-friendly option for families needing a reliable and spacious vehicle. While it wasn't the fastest or most exciting car on the road, it was a practical choice, offering good value. 1977 Datsun 200SX. By the late 70s, Datsun, later Nissan, had built a good reputation in the US thanks to practical economy cars like the B210 and 510, and great sports cars like the 240Z. But then this happened: the arrival of the 200SX. This rear-wheel drive sports coupe with a 2-liter engine was a disaster in terms of design and performance. The 200SX's grille, with its vertical bars and chrome accents, was compared to everything from an electric shaver to a waffle maker. This small coupe tried to capture the era's popular long hood, short deck design, but something seemed to get lost in translation. Surprisingly, there were few complaints about the C-pillar obstructing rear visibility, perhaps because so few people bought it. The 200SX was too slow to be called sporty and too thirsty to be considered economical. What it did best was rust, a task it performed with astounding speed and enthusiasm. As a result, very few remain today to offend our eyes. Although its 4-cylinder engine offered decent performance, especially with the optional 5-speed manual transmission and good handling, along with a rather luxurious interior for its segment. It even came with innovative features for its time, such as a digital clock and an optional T-top roof. 1970 Ford Thunderbird. The Ford Thunderbird underwent many transformations over the decades. Late 60s T-Birds, if not entirely beautiful, were at least not offensive. But then 1970 arrived and Ford decided to attach a giant beak to the front. This was a design decision that caused much controversy and was not well received. Perhaps Ford wanted to emphasize the bird in the car's name, but they seem to have gone too far. The emphasis should have been on thunder, a symbol of power and majesty, not an unnecessarily exaggerated bird part. This large beak disrupted the balance and relatively harmonious appearance of previous versions, making the Thunderbird clumsy and unsightly. This is an example of how a design idea that seemed unique on paper turned into a major mistake when applied in reality, causing an automotive icon to lose some of its charm. 1970 Porsche 914. Designing a balanced mid-engine car has always been a challenge, although we can say Chevrolet finally succeeded with the C8 Corvette. However, the oddity of the 1970 Porsche 914 was not just in the vast space between the B-pillar and the rear wheel. There was something special about the 914 that made it unique and controversial. It had an awkwardly sloping greenhouse, an ultra-boxy body, and relatively unadorned lines. All these elements not only made it look rather dorky looking, but also gave the impression that the car had embraced its own dorkiness. We're not saying dorkiness isn't appealing. We actually love the 9114. But a Porsche is supposed to have the style of a car you dream of, not the reality you wake up to. Its most distinctive feature was definitely its frog eye pop-up headlights, which emerged from the body when activated. The low body, targa top, and sloping rear further added to its controversial appearance. This was a driver's car with nimble handling, precise steering, and a balanced mid-engine layout. While lower-end models lacked the raw power of their Porsche brethren, the 914/6 version offered significant power with a 2.0-liter flat-6 engine. The base 914 had a 1.7-liter flat-4 engine. With a starting price of around $3,500, the 914 was significantly more affordable than other Porsche models, making it an attractive entry point for German sports car enthusiasts. This led to mixed feelings. Some enthusiasts considered it the poor man's Porsche, diminishing the brand's prestige, while others appreciated its accessible performance. 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass Aeroback. When it came time to downsize their successful mid-size models, General Motors decided that the Buick Century and Oldsmobile Cutlass should have a European look. And what could be more European than a hatchback? The result, as you can see, was as bad as predicted. Technically, these Aeroback cars were not true hatchbacks, as they had traditional trunks. But consumers didn't complain because they were too busy not buying them. GM was so confident in the design that they didn't bother offering a traditional sedan version. A huge mistake. Sales plummeted, but didn't completely disappear thanks to the traditional wagon version and the rather attractive coupe version. GM rushed a proper sedan into production for 1980, although for inexplicable reasons, the two-door Aeroback version was retained until 1981. If you're wondering why GM's styling was so bland throughout the 1980s, now you know. 1970 Bond Bug. The 1970 Bond Bug wasn't afraid to be different, looking like it stepped straight out of a science fiction novel. This Tangerine Dream was a three-wheeled marvel with a canopy door that opened like a fighter jet cockpit. Bond marketed it as a fun car, and it was fun if you consider careening around in a bright orange wedge with minimal protection from the elements to be fun. Its plastic body and exposed front wheels certainly won no conventional beauty awards. Some compared it to a bathtub with an engine, while others likened it to a giant insect. Its low center of gravity and lightweight body made it surprisingly agile and nimble. However, it was no speed demon, with a 700 cubic centimeter engine, later upgraded to 750 cubic centimeters, sourced from an Austin Mini, reaching a top speed of about 80 miles per hour. And remember the starting price of around $1,300? It was an affordable option for those seeking a unique and fun mode of transportation. 1971 Stutz Blackhawk. In the world of ugly cars, sometimes there are designs that aren't exactly ugly, but rather uniquely controversial, even ostentatious. The 1971 Stutz Blackhawk is a prime example. Designed by Virgil Exner, it was a statement of wealth, status, and unapologetic luxury. Inspired by classic luxury cars, it featured an elongated hood, prominent fenders, a majestic grille, and enough chrome to blind a disco ball. This car was hand-assembled in Italy by Carrozzeria Padan, with limited production numbers. Stepping inside, you would find yourself surrounded by opulence. The interior was a symphony of leather, wood, and plush carpets. Gold-plated accents, a 100-year-old antique walnut dashboard, and seats as luxurious as for royalty. The Stutz Blackhawk was one of the most expensive cars of its time, with a starting price of around $33,000, equivalent to over $200,000 today when customized. This was a car that only the wealthy and famous could afford, and it became a favorite of stars like Elvis Presley, who owned several. Subaru Wagon, AWD. Shifting gears to a Japanese automaker that was beginning to make waves in the American market, Subaru. This small wagon, with its boxy shape, raised suspension, and utilitarian design, was unlike the sports cars or luxury sedans that dominated the 70s. It resembled an exaggerated toaster more than a beautiful car. However, hidden beneath that humble exterior was a car equipped with innovative features. It had a unique symmetrical boxer engine, contributing to a low center of gravity and good handling. More importantly, the Subaru wagon was one of the first affordable all-wheel drive vehicles available in the US. This made it a popular choice for people living in snowy climates, or those who enjoyed off-road excursions. It could conquer dirt roads, icy conditions, and even muddy trails. Inside, the wagon was spacious and practical, with plenty of room for passengers and cargo. It may not have been the most luxurious car on the road, but it was comfortable and well built, earning a reputation for reliability and durability. 1976 Plymouth Volare. Prepare for a car rounder than a disco ball? It's the Plymouth Volare, and it's going to take you on a funky ride. Launched in 1976, the Plymouth Volare fully embraced the rounded design trend of the mid-70s. The Volare's most controversial feature was its distinctive scowling grille, giving the car a perpetually grumpy face. Some found it cute, while others found it utterly depressing. The bulging body, reminiscent of a melted marshmallow or a goldfish bowl on wheels, only added to its controversial appearance. However, the Volare was a surprisingly practical and reliable car. It came in multiple body styles, coupe, sedan, and even a wagon, offering plenty of space for families and cargo. Its interior was comfortable and well-equipped for its era, and its V6 or V8 engines provided ample power and performance. Perhaps most importantly, the Volare was affordable, starting at around $3,000. It quickly gained popularity among budget-conscious buyers who valued practicality over flashiness. 1970 Buick Riviera. The second-generation Buick Riviera was a breathtakingly beautiful car, at least from 1966 to 1969, with strong lines and deeply recessed hidden headlights. And then this happened. The 1970 version. It takes a moment to truly recognize the ugliness of this car, perhaps due to our mind's defense mechanisms trying to prevent extreme trauma. But look long enough and you'll see it. The way the grille seems to be sliding down the front of the car, the way the rear wheel arches seem to grow to encompass the wheels like some uncontrolled fungus, and the way the entire body bulges like a drowned victim. Riviera sales had been steadily increasing in the late 60s, but they plummeted like a falling beam when this distorted car appeared in showrooms. Fortunately, it was replaced by the controversial but handsome boat-tail Riviera in 1971. 1974. Ford Mustang II, especially the Ghia version. The Mustang II was a bestseller, but we think this was despite the Mustang Ghia version, rather than because of it. This pony car dared to be different, the black sheep of the Mustang family. Some called it a betrayal of Mustang heritage, while others saw it as a necessary adaptation to a changing world. The oil crisis of the early 70s plunged the automotive world into chaos, and gas-guzzling muscle cars were suddenly out of favor. Ford responded by downsizing the Mustang, making it smaller, lighter, and more fuel-efficient. The Mustang II offered a choice of 4-cylinder or V6 engines, providing a more modest driving experience. It shared its platform with the Ford Pinto, a car known more for its affordability than its thrills. But here's the surprise: despite the criticism, the Mustang II was a sales success. Its lower price, around $3,000, and fuel economy appealed to a new generation of buyers who valued practicality and economy. 1974. Vanden Plas 1500. The Detroit Three were rightly criticized throughout the 1970s and 80s for badge engineering, the process of taking a terrible car and slapping a fancy grille on it, thereby magically transforming it into something truly special. But British Leyland elevated this to an art form, provided your definition of art includes smearing excrement on paintings. Behold the Vanden Plas 1500. Based on the atrocious Austin Allegro, this car featured a vertical chrome grille, real leather seats, thick pile carpets, and fold-down walnut picnic tables for the rear seats. Perhaps for the owner to have a comfortable place to enjoy lunch while waiting for a tow truck. And for all this, BL charged nearly double the price of the Allegro. Perhaps the target customer was someone who looked at a Jaguar XJ6 and said, "It's nice, but do you have anything smaller and worse?" This is a clear example of how design and quality shortcomings can be disguised by clumsy attempts at creating fake luxury. We're halfway through. So far, which car has stood out to you the most, despite its imperfect appearance? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts. 1977 Volvo 262. The story of the 1977 Volvo 262C has quite an interesting beginning. According to Hemmings reports, when Henry Ford II visited Volvo's advanced Kalmar plant in Sweden, his team brought a motorcade of Lincoln Continental Mark V's for transportation. The Swedes were so impressed that they decided to build a similar version themselves. A foolish idea that gave birth to a foolish car. The story goes that Volvo didn't bother with a clay model, and that's a shame. Perhaps it would have prevented this disaster from happening. To create this horrifying car, Volvo sent otherwise good 262 GL coupes to Bertone in Italy. There, Bertone chopped 2.6 inches from the roofline, rendering the car unusable for anyone over 6 feet tall. Incredibly, about 6,600 units were produced over a 5-year period. Clearly, there were many short people with terrible taste. This is a testament to how even reputable brands can stumble into inexplicable design errors when external influences are applied without careful consideration of practicality and aesthetics. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with friends of the same generation who grew up with these dangerous cars, and we'll see you on the next trip down memory lane.